Alright, welcome to my H.Y.D.E demo video. Let's get started here. We have a freshly cloned project from GitHub. So let's open this in a terminal and create a new environment. And this is using Python 3.10. We will overwrite my existing one and let that run. Now the reason I'm recording this off of my phone and not screen recording is because I was having issues running the screen recording and the program at the same time, so this was the best solution, unfortunately. But the quality is not bad. I think it's mostly in focus there. So now that we've got this running, we just got to do one more thing before we can actually start the project, and that would be replacing the API key in here, right there. That is the open weather API key. So I'm just going to plop mine in there real quick. Save that. There we go. So now that we have that saved in there, we can go back to here and we can activate our environment. And we can run the program. There we go. So now it is just collecting all the packages required to run it, like Rasa and TensorFlow. And PyTorch and all that other stuff. So this will take just a few seconds here. My stuff is all cached because I've run it before, obviously. If this is your first time running it, it'll take a few more seconds just to actually download everything. Just give it some time. There we go. So now it's actually installing all of the packages there. So that'll take a second. This is actually my first project in Python, so I thought it was kind of fun just setting up this .sh file to make sure that everything is downloaded properly. There is also a Windows one that I created, but I haven't tested it on a Windows machine, but it should work. It's all the same stuff, just different terminals. So this should be done soon. There we go. And now it's starting the action server. And as you can see here, it says getting GPT Neo. So what this is actually doing is it's downloading the models directly from Hugging Face. So that way, when we're using the transformers, we're actually using everything locally and we're not pulling it from the internet. So the theory behind that is once you've run the program once, it should be able to run completely locally and offline, apart from the API calls like the weather. Right, so it's getting the models still. And there we go. So now it's actually loading them. So this whole process here only happens once, or as long as they're installed on your system. If we actually pull up this here, we can see it's actually loading them now. Our RAM usage is getting quite high. This machine here actually is using 16 gigabytes of RAM. The minimum is 32, but we're using some swap memory here, so that takes care of that. The only issue is that we do have some performance decreases. But now, as you can see, there we go. And we have the Rasa server running now as well. And we also have the React website initializing. It won't install React for you. You do need npm and React installed on your own, but it will initialize the project. So there we go. Now it is loaded and we are connecting. So this is just the screen that shows while the Rasa server is still starting up. There we go. It says welcome. So let's hit this button right here. We'll move the camera back ever so slightly. Actually, let's move it down a little bit too. Put it better in frame. There we go. Okay, so now let's go next here. Again, I apologize for the setup, but it does use quite a bit of resources because it is locally. Even though I did attempt to use specialized models to try and cut down on how much resources it used, it still does use quite a bit. So I am H.Y.D.E, how you doing everyone, your virtual personal assistant. My job is to help with your day-to-day tasks. Let's start with you telling me your name. So here we're going to input our name. It's kind of hard to see, but Nicholas. And we'll hit enter. Okay, Nicholas. So now the Rasa server actually remembered my name. And then let's go. My favorite color is orange. And now the whole background is actually orange. So it'll remember what our favorite color is and use that as our background color. To make our partnership as enjoyable as possible, you can define my personality. So we're going to hit next here, see what it's going to say. I will now ask you a series of questions as if I were you. Answer as if you were me, and I will assume my personality from your answer. So this is how we assign, technically, the personality to the chatbot. We are going to do a little bit of role-playing here. So it says, hi, my name is Nicholas, who are you? And then what we're going to do is put our answers in here. So my answer is, I'm a polite, helpful robot named H.Y.D.E. So we're assuming its personality. It's very hard to see. There we go. Ooh, yeah, once the screen goes black. Oh. Yeah, the program could barely generate responses once I had the screen recorder. So now it says, nice to meet you. How do you handle criticism or feedback? So we're going to put the response. I value both feedback and criticism. It helps me improve. So we're going to enter that there. I'm just going to let it fade in every time so you can actually see what I'm typing. Okay, now tell me this. How would you describe your communication style? I like to be expressive, ensuring my communication is clear. So we're going to enter that. And finally, interesting. And how would you describe your level of empathy and understanding? We put, as a machine, I prioritize efficient functionality, and we hit enter. So it says setup complete, generating persona. I almost said personality there. And if we pull down the resources here, so we did have to hit the next button to get it started, but we can see that it's generating now. So this isn't actually the response being generated. This is the model kind of spinning up. And we're also generating a .json file with all of our responses. So when you open another session in a day or two, it'll remember all of the inputs that you put. So it remembers the background, your name, and the personality of the chatbot. So as we can see here, now it's actually generating the response. This part here only happens the first time. It's just the bot spinning up, or the model. This is a lot faster. When I had the screen recorder running, this took maybe like 50 seconds, and then this just got stuck forever. So it said yes. So that's kind of interesting. What happened here is behind the scenes, we're asking it if it's ready to be our assistant and to work with us. Ideally, it's supposed to output a response like, yes, I am ready to work with you, or let's get started or something. But it doesn't always do that, so it just said yes here. So let's hit this button and actually open up the chat. So we got all of the things appearing. We have our chat bar, submit button, time, menu. So let's start with just asking it something basic. What can you do? I can perform a range of tasks. You can ask me to do any of the following: answer questions on a given text, summarize a given text, generate text from a given prompt, or paraphrase a given text. And it can also query location-based information, which I'll get into in a little bit. So let's go and ask it, how do you paraphrase? It says, I can paraphrase any given text, giving it a new feel. Okay, so now what we're going to do here is say, hey, paraphrase some, or let's just say paraphrase text for me. So this will put it into a mode where it's able to accept an input. It's asking what would I want to paraphrase, and we're just going to put some text about the laws of thermodynamics in here. And now what it's going to do is it's going to take this and it's going to paraphrase it, giving it a new feel. So what we put in here, there are 3 main laws of thermodynamics. Each law helps us to understand and predict the operation of a physical system. We will present some simple examples of the laws and properties of physical systems, although we are most interested in the study of thermodynamics in the study of high-speed flows. So then we have this paraphrase too. There are 3 main laws. We can understand and predict the operation of physical systems thanks to each law. The laws and properties of physical systems will be presented, although we are most interested in the study of high-speed flows. Gas dynamics are involved in many classical examples. The numbering system of the 3 laws is confusing. So it took this and it attempted. This one wasn't a great example. What this is doing essentially is taking each one and it's paraphrasing each sentence. It seemed to have a little bit of a hiccup here though, but that's fine. You can obviously just keep inputting things and get different results. It is a large language model after all. But let's just keep moving on for the sake of time. Let's ask it, how do you summarize? I can summarize any inputted text by removing all supplementary information. Okay, well, let's say, hey, I need you to summarize some text. So now it's asking what we want to summarize, and let's put in, let's see here, some text about global warming and greenhouse effects. So it's just talking about global warming, the trend of global warming, fossil fuels, greenhouse gases, all that stuff. And we're going to wait for it to generate a response here. So what it's going to do is it's going to take all this and give us a brief summary. Global warming is the long-term warming of the planet's overall temperature. As the human population has increased, so has the volume of fossil fuels burned. Fossil fuels include coal, oil, and natural gas, and burning them it causes what is known as the greenhouse effect in the atmosphere. So this is a really good output and example of how the bot works. It summarized that pretty well. Let's move on to generation. Let's see here. Let's say I need to generate some text. Okay, so now here we have to describe the goal or purpose of the text. So let's say a story about a prince. Enter the first few words. Now we got to prompt the beginning of it. Let's go once upon a time. And now it should be using the GPT model to generate some text for us based on this input. Oops. Oh, as you can see, there's all the other things that are open. Quite a few terminals. This one does usually take quite a bit of time just because it is a larger model and it is generating a lot of text. While that's happening, we can also look up here and notice that there is this menu. So instead of prompting through typing to get one of these things to happen, we can also just press one of these, generating, summarizing, paraphrasing, or question answering. So it's just a little bit of a shortcut to get to the functions. Okay, it should be done soon. Oh, my apologies, I kicked this tripod. How rude of me. There we go. So our goal, a story about a prince. Once upon a time in a land far away there lived a king. He was a good king and the subjects loved him. Oh, interesting. So it's talking about the king. One day the king had a dream. In the dream he saw a beautiful princess. The king was so happy that he wanted to marry her, but the princess said no. She said, I am a princess, not a man. I want to live my life as a woman. And so she left her kingdom and went to the kingdom of men. There she met a handsome prince. They fell in love and were married. They lived happily ever after. Okay, so kind of on topic. doesn't make the most sense, but it is talking about a print. So of course, the better your inputs are here, the better its outputs will be, of course, the more details you add. So that's something to mess around with and just experiment with different outputs. Most of the time I spent was just learning Rasa and how this whole program worked. So I haven't had the most time to test out different paths, so to say. So let's go to the next feature. How do you perform question answering tasks? I can answer any question you ask as long as you give me some context to work with. Okay, so let's say I need... Actually, instead of putting that, let's use the button. Let's go question answering. So it's going to input, I need you to answer a question from a given text. It's going to say, hey, give me the context. So we are going to let's grab that same one about global warming. And let's say, what are greenhouse gases? So it'll ask us, it's saved the context. What would we like to know? What are greenhouse gases? Carbon dioxide, chlorofluorocarbons, water vapor, methane, and nitrous oxide. So that is pulled right from here. So of course, the better the input is, the more information it has to work from, and the better its result will be. But this is pretty good. It just pulled the examples of greenhouse gases out of the text. Of course, we can also say things like, how's it going? That will, of course, activate the chat fallback. So how's it going, H.Y.D.E? The way this works is anytime the chatbot doesn't recognize your intent, it'll throw it back to the, I think it's the GPT-Neo model, and that'll generate the chatbot response. So we'll just give it a second to load itself up there. We used a couple other models, so it might take some time. Here we go. It says you're gonna be fine. That's an interesting response. Let's say, what are you up to today? Now let's see what kind of response that'll generate from him. Maybe we can tell it's generating its own response because it's taking a second to do so. I'm coding my code at home to automate my to-do list. That's an interesting response. So we can say, so as you can see, anything you just say will fall back to the chatbot, and you can play around with that. You can also, of course, change the strength of the chatbot by just using different models in the, I think it's the init.py file. Just switch out the model name for a higher version, not higher version. What am I thinking of? One with more weights, because this is the 1.2 billion version. So other than that, there are a couple more features we can do, like asking the weather. We can say, I want to know the weather. Setup complete. So this is so sometimes when you ask these questions, it will give weird responses, but we can just ask a different one, like what is the time? See, the current time is 5:04. So now we can say, I want to know the weather instead. And it should, there we go, actually give us the weather. So you sometimes just got to mix it up if it starts giving weird responses that don't make sense. Don't repeatedly try the same thing because it'll most likely just keep giving broken responses. It'll say the current temperature in your area is 23 degrees with a 55% humidity. Interesting. Is that true? Let's actually quickly check that up. Let's go Winnipeg weather really quickly. 23 degrees. There we go. It's accurate. And humidity 56. It's off by 1%, but that's not bad. That's the API and the differences. We can also ask things like, what are my coordinates? Which broke there. Interesting, interesting. I want to know the forecast. Yes. So there is a little bit of an issue there, but that's not a problem. If we do have problems that start to arise, we can simply close out the program, close all the terminals except for your original terminal, and then just rerun this. So now it's going to go through, make sure all the packages are installed. We can see now that it's actually loading. It's not re-downloading the models because it already has them stored. And then there we go, it's back up. It's going to run the React and Rasa server now. And the website's back up, so we're connecting. And notice how after this boots up, it should welcome us with our username because that was saved in the previous session. If we actually go here, we can see there is the user config with the information that we put in there. So we'll just wait one more second for it to finish connecting. Welcome, Nicholas. There we go. And now we are back in our session. So now let's ask again, what is the forecast like? And we should get an actual response. There we go. And that is the 5-day, 6-day forecast right there. We can also ask other things like, when is the sunset? And it can give us a response like the sunset is at 21:31:19, and it'll give us even our time zone code as well. So pretty handy. And oh, let's see if it even works with that coordinates one that glitched out last time. What are my coordinates? And there we go. These aren't my actual coordinates. These are just the coordinates for the city I'm in, Winnipeg, obviously. But as you can see, it wasn't just a glitch with the entire coding. It was just a glitch with the session. So whenever you're experiencing an issue, your best case to fix it is just to restart the whole session. And there you go. Anyways, that's the end of this demo, and I hope you enjoy the project.